right, I see we still have folks coming into the room, which is fantastic. So I want to say thank you for joining us today for our webinar on SNAP employment and training. My name is Sean Robbins, and I am the Policy Associate at the Association of Community College Trustees, leading our Strengthening Rural Community Colleges initiative. I am excited to be leading this work and partnering with the Rural Community College Alliance to provide support to our rural community colleges. Before we get started, I want to share a glimpse of where everyone is coming from today. So let me share things here. There we go. And so as we see here, this is our breakdown here for our ACCT regions by representation. This is where individuals are coming from each region, from their institutions. So leading the way here, we have our southern region with the most individuals that have registered for today's webinar. So really excited about that there. And I apologize here. I am working on one screen today. So I apologize about any of the delay. So throughout this webinar, feel free to utilize the chat for any questions that you have, and be sure to introduce yourself as well. As a note, we are recording today's webinar, and we'll have the recording available within the next week. So today we are joined by Brandy Weisman, Senior Project Associate at the American Public Human Services Association. Brandy currently works on the 2020 Supplement Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, Employment and Training, National Partnership Grant. She assists APHSA in delivering training and technical assistance through national membership and affiliate organizations to develop and increase membership's organizational capacity to provide quality, skill-based, employer-driven E&T to SNAP recipients as third-party providers. And then also from the Division of Family Support at Kentucky's Department for Community-Based Services, Cabinet for Health and Family Services, we have Clarissa Signayo. I hope I did get your name right. Thank you. And Ann Smith, as they are the Public Assistant Program Specialists there. Clarissa and Ann oversee the administration of the SNAP E&T program, which includes keeping up to date with federal and state policies, regulations, and procedures. Also submitting the state plan and various other reports, monitoring contracts of E&T providers and partners, and collaborating with providers and partners to ensure that E&T program provides quality services to the E&T participants. And then additionally, from Pennsylvania's Department of Human Services, the Bureau of Employment Services, we are joined by Andrew Prihar. I hope, Andrew, did I get that correct? I hope.
It's Prihar, but close enough.
Prihar, okay, I apologize. Thank you for letting me know. He is the SNAP E&T Policy Unit Supervisor, and Nicole Tile, the Education and Youth Operations Unit Supervisor. Andrew directly oversees 28 SNAP 50/50 third-party partnership grants throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and provides technical assistance to teams administrating additional SNAP E&T grants. He also works closely with DHS's SNAP eligibility policy team to expand SNAP eligibility to low-income students. Nicole oversees several targeted population employment and training programs, including the Keystone Education Yield Success, KEYS, program, a robust partnership with 14 Pennsylvania community colleges, providing case management and vital support to TANF and SNAP students. So without further ado, I'm going to hand things over to Brandy to start off today's conversation. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sean. I'm going to ask for your graces also as I share my screen. I've been toggling back between Teams and Zoom, so I feel like I am an expert at neither, but I will do my best. And can everyone see my screen?
You're good to go.
Awesome. I see Sean nodding, so I know I'm good to go. As Sean said, I'm Brandy Wisman. I'm a senior project associate at APHSA, and most of the work I do is on SNAP employment and training. I'm joined here by two states, Kentucky and Pennsylvania, who are really experts at maximizing impact in rural communities. So I'm going to do my best to give you just a quick primer on SNAP employment and training, and then I'm going to turn it over to the real experts who focus on this day to day. And I see a question in the chat or a comment in the chat. Oh, hi, Michael. So I'll start off by telling you a little bit about APHSA. Sean spelled out our acronym, which is American Public Human Services Association. That is a mouthful. So we go by APHSA. We represent local, state and local health and human services agencies and subject matter experts to help states execute their mission, their strategic vision. Our members align services that really help to move folks forward on a path to economic mobility in areas including food, healthcare, employment, childcare, and all those supportive services and key building blocks that people need to be successful. We say that we do three things at APHSA. We seek to influence modern policy and practices, and we help our members build capacity for their teams. And then we also connect them to other human serving organizations and policymakers, much like we're doing here with community colleges, bringing some states in who have really done the work here to show you that it can be done in SNAP E&T with serving rural communities. So I wanted to give you a couple of just really quick facts on SNAP employment and training, which is SNAP E&T. So SNAP E&T offers funding to states, and with that funding, states are supposed to provide a package of employment and training services to participants of SNAP. So each state is required to operate a SNAP E&T program, but they have a lot of autonomy in how they operate their program. So as we move throughout this presentation, you'll hear words like voluntary and mandatory states. That's a little bit up to the state how they choose to operate their program. States are given roughly $300 million annually to operate SNAP E&T, and they have, as I said, just a wide amount of flexibility in how they operate their program. So for a quick 101, SNAP E&T is really just at its bare bones minimum. It's a package of services that are offered to SNAP participants, and those the idea behind offering those services is to support skill development, training, help folks get certification so that they can move forward on that path to economic mobility. As I mentioned before, all states are required to operate a SNAP E&T program. They must also submit what's called an annual SNAP E&T plan, which is due on August 15th each year. States are, as they set up their SNAP E&T program, there are a couple of different ways to do it. One of the most common ways to do it is what's called third-party partnerships, or you might hear it referred to as 50-50. So that really is more about who's providing the SNAP employment and training services. So when we talk about the skills development and the training, it's not necessarily the state who's offering these services. It's organizations out in the community, including community-based organizations, community action agencies, and community colleges. So when we talk about eligibility of SNAP E&T services, again, at its bare bones, it has to be a person receiving SNAP. You also cannot receive TANF cash assistance if you're engaged in the SNAP employment and training program, and you have to be able to work upon program completion. And here's where we'll talk a little bit about that mandatory versus voluntary that I talked about earlier. States can option whether or not to be a mandatory state, meaning that participants must engage in SNAP employment and training, or they can operate as a voluntary program, meaning that people who are receiving SNAP can choose to engage in the program. Most states, and I believe both Kentucky and Pennsylvania, who are with us today, operate voluntary programs. So I talked about those 50-50 funds a little bit. So the funding for that is authorized through the Food and Nutrition Act. And there are a couple of different ways that states receive funding. There's 100% funds, which really covers sort of administrative costs for states. There's pledged state funds, and then there's the 50-50 funds that I mentioned that really go toward those third-party partnerships that we discussed between community colleges, community-based organizations, and community action agencies. So those 50-50 funds sort of split out into two different ways. They can be administrative reimbursements, and they can be supportive services. So one thing that gets a little confusing on this is you might hear the term match funding. At its core, SNAP E&T is not a match program. So essentially how it works is you have to put up 50% of the cost. Now, once you put up 50% of the cost, this breaks down the funding a little more. Once you put up 50% of the cost, it requires that upfront investment of, or once you put up 100% of the cost, it does require that upfront investment of non-federal funds. So when we talk about non-federal funds, that means state budget allocations that you may receive, or foundational funding, grants that are non-federal. So once you put up that funding, you receive a reimbursement of 50% back on your dollar. So the really cool thing about that is once you receive that reimbursement back, it loses its federal identity. So it's no longer a federal fund, so that you can then use it to reinvest into your program. So we've talked a little bit about the third-party partnerships and what those are. Really the way that that works, and Pennsylvania and Kentucky both will talk a little bit more about this, is the third-party partners contracts through the state's SNAP agency. It's done either directly or through an intermediary. So in some cases, in some states, I believe Nevada is one of them, and I know that Louisiana is one of them. Your contract may come through your college, your community college's state association, but in most cases, it's directly through the state. And then again, the colleges get reimbursed up to 50% through the federal funding on services. So there's sort of a little diagram of what that might look like through the reimbursement process. Each state, there are some I think it's important to note that there are some nuances here. States may do things a little bit differently, but generally overall, this is sort of what it looks like is you're written into your state's employment and training plan as a third-party provider, and that's usually done through an RFP or a contract with the state, just depending on how your particular state does it. Each state does it differently. I've said this joke a million times, but it's very true. If you've seen one SNAP E&T state program, you've seen one SNAP E&T state program, because they all run a little bit differently. The state agency then draws down the funding, and then you would the provider, the third-party provider, then submits basically a bill to the state agency, an invoice, and then the state agency would then issue payment based on the 50% reimbursement. So I did want to leave you with a couple of resources that we've been developing throughout this partnership grant that Sean mentioned that I'm a part of. So we have developed a SNAP E&T third-party resource clearinghouse. We actually have a specific section for community colleges. We've been working closely with ACCT to sort of build out what technical assistance looks like for community colleges. And then there's also SNAP Employment and Training. If you click that link, it will take you directly to Food and Nutrition Services, who runs SNAP Employment and Training. And you can get some more information there. And then I also wanted to let you know about a webinar that's upcoming around delivering SNAP employment and training services in rural communities. So with that, I'm going to quit sharing my screen and check the chat really quickly. Okay, awesome. And now I'm going to turn it over to Ree and Ann to tell you a little bit more about Kentucky and how they operate their program.
Hi, thanks for having us today. I'm trying to figure this out. Oh, I only have 2 monitors, so hold on. Can you see my screen? Okay, and I'm just gonna look funny. I don't know.
You're good to go here.
All right. So there we go. Well, like I said, my name is Ann Smith. I'm one of the E&T specialists with Kentucky. I'll let Reese start. She'll introduce herself here in a minute. Oh, let's see. So SNAP Employment and Training in Kentucky, we are a state administered state. We do operate a voluntary E&T program, and we also operate the 50-50 matching non-federal fund partnerships. As I stated, we are a statewide. We also offer SNAP employment and training statewide, and this is our breakdown of our eligibility, what we call our eligibility service regions. But we just wanted to give you a visual of the counties. We do have 120 counties. And the way that we do our E&T program is that we contract with E&T providers, which are now considered intermediaries this year in the state plan. They are also our KWP providers as well. So we have Big Sandy Area Development District, Audubon Area Community Services, Kentucky Works, Central Kentucky Community Action Council, and Northern Kentucky Area Development District. And these agencies provide the initial assessment. They assign them a career coach. That's where they determine their goals for what the client wants to do, with what kind of training they would like to do, and where they would like to go, and what type of employment they would like to gain. So they start the case management process and provide case management there, and then they transfer them to if they don't have a program that they're offering for the client, then they would refer them to one of our partners. I'll turn it to Reese.
Hi, everyone calls me Reese, so if you hear Ann and Brandy call me that, I go by that. I'm one of the SNAP E&T program specialists here, and I apologize, I'm not going to turn my camera on because I'm getting the message that my network is unstable, so I don't want to be cut off. Well, we just want to kind of first explain how we choose to partner, how we choose our partnerships. When we choose to partner with an agency, we keep in mind that purpose of E&T, which is to help our SNAP recipients, not only meet their work requirements, but also find them opportunities to gain or improve their skills, get that work experience, so they can obtain that employment that will support themselves and their families. We also look for agencies that already provide services to our SNAP population. So they don't have to create something new for E&T, but then give them the ability to expand their existing programs by partnering with us with E&T. And we begin our process with the initial contact with the potential partner, and we get a lot of referrals. We do some outreach, Ann and I, we hear about different agencies, organizations, and we also get some connections from our partners, from our providers. They, at one time, Big Sandy said, there's this organization in Ashland, come hear about this partner or this organization. So we get referrals like that from who we partner with, as well as other state agencies. So we begin our process with that initial contact. We give them information about E&T. We let them know how the program works in Kentucky and how we can benefit, all of us, they and ourselves, can benefit from that partnership. And at that contact, we find out the services they will provide our E&T participants and kind of learn the life cycle of their clients, so we can make sure that the participants will be able to fit into their program and really benefit from their services. And we also share information on, the E&T activities and components, what are approved, kind of give them some insight on the clients that they'll be serving, the population. And we also talk about the funding and reimbursement process. And, earlier Brandy mentioned that, with this reimbursement, it loses the federal identity, so they can continue to use it to build their program. And that's one of, the things that we tell them that's a benefit for them in partnering with E&T, is that they'll get this reimbursement and then they can use it as they want to build a program. And Next slide. So we kind of wanted to mention also that we, as Anne had mentioned, we have the providers, which work a little bit like intermediaries, but we also have E&T partners that are local community organizations that offer training, other E&T services. And you'll see that Jefferson Community College, Technical College, which is part of the Kentucky Community and Technical College system. And they're one of our 50-50 partners, and they offer vocational education. Next slide. One of the things first, we kind of wanted to, let you know that we have done some additional statewide training in Kentucky with our eligibility workers to give them some information about E&T so they can talk to our clients, to our SNAP recipients and potential participants about the program. So we let them know, the information that they can provide. We let them know who our providers and who our partners are and what the components that we have available that they can take our clients can take advantage of. So we really wanted to let them know that, they're the first point of contact for our applicants, for our clients to learn about the different programs, which is the basic needs to meet their basic needs like SNAP, KTAP, but they're also the point of contact to learn about additional programs that we have like SNAP E&T, that we kind of explain to them how E&T can help our clients, applicants find that training to improve and enhance their skills and find that better job. So we just did that. So to kind of strengthen a little bit more about the knowledge that we have, or, knowledge that they have about E&T and be able to talk to our potential participants about it. And like I said, we partner with Jefferson Community and Technical College, which is part of Kentucky's Community and Technical College system. There's 16 campuses throughout the state, and Jefferson is one of them. And even though their main campus is the downtown campus in Louisville, which is a metro area, they also have served different campuses around the surrounding counties, which are considered rural, such as Bullitt County and Carrollton. Shelby is also. So even though Jefferson JCTC is considered metro campus, they have different campuses around. So they serve rural counties. They haven't had, in just kind of, we hear from everyone that our participation is low. So Richard Davis, who is the SNAP E&T specialist with JCTC, has mentioned that, they haven't had any participants in the rural counties, but, he is the main person that they will talk to. We have the ability for virtual meetings. We have our case management system called Connectability, and our partners and providers can connect with them through that because our clients have the self-service portal, or what we call Connect Benefits, and they can use that to schedule appointments and also provide their participation, report their participation and request for transportation. So we're able to use that system to do a little bit of the case management. So, that kind of lifts that hardship of having to go on campus to meet in person, that we can do things virtually. And then, like I said, Richard is the one who would connect with that person. Jefferson has taken part in the laptop loaner program. So, that is for their students, and that helped a little bit with able to reach the students who had difficulty getting to campus. So they were assigned a laptop and they can take online classes, and then they can also use that to connect with Richard and his E&T team. Of course, we have the rural challenges like everyone else, where it's difficult to find that non-federal funds. That's one of the things that we've heard with with a lot of our partners as well as with JCTC. Participation low is right now, is low. And we're working on that, like I said, with our eligibility workers to extend their knowledge so they can share that information. And then also identifying the participants. Anne had mentioned that we have the 5 providers who are intermediaries. So our community colleges would have to do reverse referrals, so they don't get direct referrals from us. So they, it's difficult for them to identify participants. And we're working with them to see how we can help them identify the participants and identify and get them to DCBS so they can go through the screening criteria, be identified as a good fit for E&T, make that referral to the colleges, and then get them into E&T. But we did want to kind of also explain, Jefferson Community College offers these programs or these services when they're connected to the community college. And then that's, they have the career coaching with Richard, and they have the advocacy from that E&T specialist at the college. They can connect the students with the participant, with the programs and services that they may not know of by having that case management from Richard and his team, the E&T specialists. They can also offer other, programs that offers the soft skills training. So they can take classes, but they may also need some additional assistance with resume writing or interview skills. So, the E&T specialist can connect them to that, where they may have to research and do that all on their own. Having that specialist will help them with all different aspects of the assistance they need, not just, transportation that E&T provides and not just the online classes. So they have a lot of those services there that they can connect them to. Whereas, they may have to, our students may have to do that on their own.
I do want to add that there are I think it's 114 or 115 technical certificates or vocational trainings that are SNAP E&T approved. So just wanted to add that. Thank you, Reese.
You're welcome.
Turn it back to you, Brandy, or Sean.
Sure, you can turn it back to me. It does look like we have a question from Michael. Does someone who qualifies for SNAP would automatically qualify for other services? Michael, are you asking in Massachusetts or?
Maybe medical assistance?
Maybe medical assistance.
No, they don't automatically qualify. They would have to, because of the different eligibility requirements, or for Kentucky, they have each program has different eligibility requirements. So the person would have to apply for the different programs. So they're not automatically, given MA or medical assistance or other programs just by being eligible or approved for SNAP.
But they can apply it all at the same time for any program that they would be eligible for. They don't have to do separate applications. They are separate applications, but not at the same, they don't have to do it at different times.
So Kentucky's eligibility system is the one case concept. So if you are applying for SNAP, at the same time, the eligibility worker will ask them, are there any other, services that you want, programs you want to apply for? And they can apply for it all at the same time. And if they come back, if they say no at first, and then they come back and say, oh, I want medical assistance, we've already got that program. So we will just take that case that we have and then just apply the information and see if they're eligible for medical assistance or any of the other programs. So it isn't considered a new application is just adding on other services to the one case that they have already.
Thanks, Ann and Reese. So I'm going to turn it over now to Andrew Prehar and Nicole Tile from Pennsylvania to share a little bit about how Pennsylvania operates their program and how they engage community colleges in rural communities.
Thank you very much. Bear with me. We are a Teams state, so I am not very familiar with Zoom, and I am currently trying to find our PowerPoint in my list of windows. So give me just 1 second. All right. Yeah. Can everybody see what I got going on here?
Yes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So good afternoon. My name is Nicole Tile, and as Sean mentioned, I am the supervisor for the Education and Youth Opportunities Unit that oversees several education and youth programs, including the Keystone Education Yield Success Keys program. My colleague, Andrew Prehar, and I are excited to be here today to share some information about Pennsylvania's Keys program with you all. So what is Keys? Keys is a collaborative program between the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services, DHS, and the Pennsylvania Community Colleges. Keys is designed to assist eligible recipients of TANF, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, and SNAP that are enrolled in, registered for, or interested in enrolling at any of the Pennsylvania's 14 community colleges, whether it be an HSE, high school equivalency, adult basic education, English as a second language, or like an associate's degree or certificate program that would lead, it's in a course of study that's high priority occupation or Perkins 5. Pennsylvania did add on a 15th community college last year, and we are working with them to bring them on board as a Keys provider. Keys was also designed to provide a range of services and supports to meet participants' needs based on human-centered design. Keys has a dedicated staff to provide Keys services such as assessments to identify the participants and their families' social determinants of health, which is then used to design a participant's human-centered individual employment plan. The individual employment plan describes the goals, objectives, interests, and associated services of the participant as determined from the assessment, and it promotes the use of strategies to address the participant's barriers and achieve goals to gain and maintain family economic security. Intensive case management is definitely essential. These Keys programs are able to monitor academic progress through their community college systems and alerts, and discuss participants' progress toward their goals at least once a month. They are to identify barriers to success through these discussions and monitoring of their academic progress so that they can identify barriers, remediate barriers, and support participants' needs through connections to community resources, community college resources, and participant reimbursements. Some key supports. They are to leverage community college resources when available, but they are able to provide participant reimbursements either directly or through the local eligibility office, which we'll talk about in a little bit, for childcare, transportation, books and supplies, equipment, laptops, and tools. But they are able to provide enhanced supports that are either unavailable or with limited availability at the community college. And this could include licensed counselors, tutoring, job readiness, and preparation activities. The Keys program is also able to increase individuals' access to technology through laptop and hotspot loan programs, and textbooks and study materials through textbook loan and study libraries. Keys was established 17 years ago in 2005. At that time, Pennsylvania's Department of Human Services worked closely with the PA Commission for Community Colleges to partner with 14 community colleges in the Commonwealth. This commitment to partnering with all community colleges ensured that rural Pennsylvanians were not excluded. I'm going to turn it over to Andrew to discuss the impact of SNAP E&T policies and funding structures that have supported KEYS in its mission to serve students receiving SNAP.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Andrew, and as Sean mentioned earlier, I lead our SNAP Employment and Training Policy team here in Pennsylvania. So prior to 2015, a lot of states' SNAP employment and training programs were honestly in their infancy, even though SNAP E&T has existed since the mid-1980s and every state has been required to operate a SNAP E&T program since then. USDA really only started emphasizing the program in 2015. And so like many states, Pennsylvania only got its program, I think, to the point where it became really mature around that time period. So prior to 2015, our KEYS program suffered from a few barriers. The program did serve both SNAP employment and training and TANF employment and training participants, and we really believe that this is a good model. Now, in most states, SNAP E&T funds can only be used to serve individuals who are receiving SNAP but not TANF. However, we also use some TANF funds to fund the TANF E&T side of the program for KEYS so that we remain in compliance with that rule. But prior to 2015, we capped the number of SNAP E&T individuals who could participate in the program because we didn't have as much funds dedicated to the program then. That means that in some areas we had waiting lists to get into the program, or individuals just could not enroll at all, despite the fact that they wanted to enroll in community college. In addition, prior to 2015, we did limit participants to participating for no more than 12 months in a lifetime, which we called our vocational education clock. And then finally, there was no formal process prior to 2015 for the community colleges to identify a student who presented themselves to them and said, hey, I'd like to participate in the E&T program. This is a big thing for us in Pennsylvania that, because we operate a voluntary program. So not having a reverse referral procedure prior to 2015 was a big issue and one that we needed to rectify. So moving forward, to the next slide, I want to talk about a few of the things that we did to maximize our enrollment in our KEYS program. So in 2015, our governor, Tom Wolf, signed Act 92, which is a piece of state legislation. Act 92 was passed by an overwhelming bipartisan majority by our state legislature. I think they were like 80% to 20% margins, like 42 to 8 or something crazy like that. It was very, very supported. Act 92 codified the KEYS program into state law. In addition, it expanded the scope of the KEYS program to include a parallel program that we call KEYS Expansion. So original of us, that we call KEYS Expansion, that operates at Pennsylvania's state-owned four-year universities, as well as our career and technical schools. And finally, it allowed individuals to participate in the KEYS program for up to 24 months, as opposed to the previous hard cap of 12 months. And we also allow individuals to participate for 6-month extensions after that if they're making satisfactory academic progress as defined under our state criteria. We also took several actions as a state agency around the same time, eliminating that aforementioned cap on our SNAP KEYS enrollment. So as many students as want to can now participate and volunteer for the SNAP KEYS program, and also creating an official reverse referral process. Next slide. So I do want to talk a little bit about funding because that's really an important piece. We realize that a lot of organizations, especially organizations that might be located in rural areas, might not have the same access to robust non-federal funding streams. So in Pennsylvania, I'm sure you might have heard the expression, and I'm just going to apologize in advance if there's anyone from Alabama on the call, but Pennsylvania is often described as Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and Alabama in between. And that's kind of dismissive to our rural areas. You know, I'm from one of the Alabama parts personally, so I do take it a little bit personally. But it is true that a lot of the money in Pennsylvania is concentrated in those cities, a lot of the foundation dollars and things like that. So understanding that not all community colleges have access to the same non-federal funding streams, we didn't want KEYS to be limited by that. So actually, as a state agency, we've committed to using a big chunk of our 100% E&T grant money each year, as well as a dedicated state appropriation that we have secured as a state agency for the KEYS program and for all of our KEYS schools. And we use that so that we're able to pay KEYS schools 100% reimbursement instead of 50% through this combination of our 100% E&T money, which each state receives a finite amount of, as well as the state appropriations and then the federal reimbursement that they bring down. So we are actually able to reimburse 100%, which is a huge thing. I know not every state might be able to do that. In some states, you might not be able to get that unless you really, really advocate for it. So another thing that we did is we focused our key services on case management and the supports, leaving either the students themselves or usually their financial aid packages to handle the tuition costs. That way we could take these finite dollars that we have available to fund the KEYS program at that 100% reimbursement rate and make sure that they go the furthest. Now, we did make an exception for that over the last couple of federal fiscal years when we had access to SNAP extra SNAP dollars under the American Rescue Plan Act. And we did use some of those funds to partially pay tuition and to basically offer grants to students whose financial aid wouldn't be sufficient for them to pay tuition on their own. Next slide, please. Another thing we do in Pennsylvania that I think also benefits our rural community colleges and KEYS tremendously is that we have a flexible participant reimbursement policy in Pennsylvania. Generally speaking, providers are not required to pay for their own participant reimbursements. We pay those through the state agency almost as if they're an entitlement that's available to individuals who are participating in E&T. So regardless of what SNAP E&T program you're in, you can potentially be eligible for what we call SPALs or special allowances. They're issued by the SNAP Eligibility Office, subject to certain annual and lifetime limits that apply to each participant, but they are flexible in nature, meaning that even though in many cases an urban community college may issue bus passes to an individual or public transit, in a rural area, we can pay for mileage if you own a car. We can pay for car repairs if your car breaks down, you need help getting to programming. We can even pay for volunteer driver mileage. If you have a friend or family member who will drive you if you don't have a vehicle of your own, we can pay you so that you can pay them to drive you. So we try to be as flexible as possible in offering those special allowances. We also have a very broad childcare network in Pennsylvania through our state childcare agency. And we leverage that by basically allowing any eligible provider through that state childcare agency to provide childcare to someone eligible under SNAP E&T if they need childcare while they're participating in the program. And so we do that as well. By directly issuing the special allowances, we relieve the burden on our schools, our KEYS schools and our other SNAP E&T grantees from having to pay that cost directly. And in addition, we do have a pot of funds available to KEYS schools for students who have exceptional costs that might fall outside those categories we described or might exceed the annual and lifetime limits so that they can, on an individualized level, make sure that those needs are met. Next slide, please. Another thing I wanted to talk about, and that is really important to making sure that a state is serving as many students through SNAP E&T as possible, is to make sure that you're leveraging SNAP eligibility state options that are relevant. Now, again, I know most of the folks on the call are from community colleges, so you don't have direct control over these levers, but these are policy levers that you can advocate to your state agency that they should consider taking. So one of those is the status of financial aid is incredibly complex under SNAP eligibility rules. In some instances, it counts as income. In some instances, it doesn't. There is a state option allowing states to choose to exclude all financial aid from income, regardless of the source, regardless of what it's used for. If it's financial aid and it's awarded to them, it can be excluded from income, which greatly simplifies the process for helping to find a student eligible for SNAP in the first place. Because of course, if they're not eligible for SNAP, you can't serve them under SNAP E&T. In addition, SNAP has a lot of prohibitions for students and generally actually bars many college students from receiving SNAP at all. There are some exceptions from this rule, but again, there's a lot of bureaucracy around that. It can be difficult to establish an exemption, and some students just aren't exempt. There was an excellent GAO report that came out about this, I think 3 or 4 years ago in 2018 or 2019. I'd encourage y'all to read it. I can share that link with Sean so he can share it out. But SNAP student eligibility is a huge issue, and too few students are being found eligible for SNAP based on those who should be eligible based on income. States do have some options here as well. So in Pennsylvania, we did take an option to expand SNAP student eligibility to any student at a community college in Pennsylvania, provided that they are participating in provided that their major or course of study is Perkins 5 CTE, or that it aligns with one of our state high priority occupations that we've defined for each local area. And then finally, each state does have the ability to simplify the SNAP income and asset test as well through a policy called broad-based categorical eligibility, to expand the income limit for the SNAP program, as well as to eliminate asset tests. That is a broader issue, but by expanding SNAP eligibility in a broader way, it also would obviously mean that more students could be eligible, especially those who might still be living at home with parents who are low-wage workers. Next slide, please. And with that, I'm going to turn things back over to Nikki.
Thank you, Andrew. For the KEYS program specifically, relationships really are the key to success. Through positive collaborations and partnerships, KEYS is able to raise awareness for the program and its benefits within the community college and the community, build a support team for participants, and establish best practices. Relationships within the community college enable the KEYS program to identify SNAP students attending the college that are not already enrolled in the program, empower KEYS programs to be active in the community college events for students, and allows programs to access academic information and alerts to optimize the individualized case management for current SNAP KEYS participants. The KEYS providers' relationships with the local eligibility offices ensure that reverse referral process we discussed is executed smoothly and timely, and it establishes a support team for current SNAP KEYS participants to identify and remediate barriers to engagement. Relationships with other DHS employment and training programs, with the workforce development areas and community-based organizations really enable current E&T participants to transfer to the KEYS program, as well as establish those partnerships and best practices to remediate participant barriers and support their needs. We will conclude with sharing some best practices from the community colleges KEYS programs that will be participating in next week's peer learning network. A KEYS presence at open houses, welcome days for new students, and other appropriate college events to provide information about SNAP benefits and the KEYS program. Again, raising awareness for the program on the campus is key. KEYS representatives attending monthly county collaborative meetings, such as our Butler County Community College attends their Butler Collaborative for Family meetings, and connecting with local agencies and other nonprofits about KEYS offerings to really recruit potential students. They also include literature about KEYS and SNAP benefits in all of their food bags at the campus food pantry that the college operates. The KEYS providers and staff present information about KEYS to all GED orientation groups and Job Corps students at their meetings to inform them about the benefits of KEYS and how to apply for SNAP, as well as working really closely with their financial aid offices to send targeted emails to students with a low estimated family contribution, or EVC. Again, all awareness, trying to raise that awareness in the community college and the community as best as they possibly can. We thank you again for the opportunity to share our mission to support SNAP student engagement and SNAP E&T and supporting them on their journey to family economic security.
Thank you so much, everyone, for all of these resources, all of this insights, especially into your specific states. I think it's really great to have an opportunity for our rural community college leaders to hear from states in particular, to understand the scope of how things are different and what it looks like in particular there at the state level when they're looking. So with that, I wanted to open it up. If anybody has any questions, feel free to please put them into the chat and we can make sure that we get those questions answered for you. In the meantime, just as a note, I know we've had some questions about the recording, the presentation, and some of these resources that have been shared. We will be sharing this recording, the resources and everything within the next week. And we'll send out an email to everybody here as well, so you will have access to those resources. So if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the chat. I would say to all our panelists, are there any other tips or insights? I know y'all have put together some best practices and things for rural community colleges. Y'all have given some insights there. Is there anything else that you would like our rural community college leaders to also take away as they are walking in, excited to dive deeper into some of these resources?
I think the one thing that we would suggest, if you don't already have some sort of consortium for your community colleges, if you're interested in doing a community college program at the state, really getting in touch with your other community college in your state to see if they're doing anything, if they have any existing partnerships with the state, and if you don't, setting up a consortium or a commission or something to bring it to the state to say, this is what we have to offer you. And hopefully they will be willing to listen and are interested in what you can provide as a community college whole to SNAP E&T, as well as just looking for grant opportunities, state grant opportunities when you can, where you can.
Thank you. Anything else, Brandy?
Oh, yeah. So I think I'd add, and Nicole hit on this a little bit, I think a lot of it is about relationships and building relationships with your state DHS agency. That's really helpful because they're your experts. Like we said, it's going to vary from state to state. So if you really want to know how your state's doing it, the best way to do it is to reach out and ask them. So starting to build those relationships.
This is Clarissa, and I also wanted to add, just to go on the relationship part, we have the 5 providers that offer services statewide, but we have been working with them to build relationships with the community colleges. So that way, if we have a campus in Maysville who's not part of E&T, but they have a student there and wants to connect with E&T, our provider that is in the same area knows that, to work with this student, and then can also contact the college, and they will be the ones to monitor, do the E&T reporting and do the E&T reporting, as well as issuing transportation. So they also know that, if they get a person that really wants to go on the the education track, they know to go ahead and refer them. Even though the college is not a partner right now, they know to refer them to the community college, and will work with that person with E&T while they attend school. So building that relationship, we have a strong relationship between Kentuckiana Works and Jefferson Community College. So Kentuckiana Works will refer people who want to go on the student track, will refer them to JCTC. And they will work together, even though Jefferson College is a 50-50 partner and we have the provider, they will still work together to provide the services they each can provide to make sure that that student will get all the services, all the assistance that they need. And like I said, the other providers know that they can work with students at the other community colleges, and they can provide that service until maybe one day we can get them to partner with us too. So I just wanted to add that we try to form that relationship between our providers who are the intermediaries with the colleges, the community colleges. So I just wanted to add that building that relationship is very key, whether it's with our state agency or whether it's your intermediaries.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Yeah, the relationships are key in every aspect, especially for our rural community colleges. Being able to partner with local organizations, local businesses, and also your local state entities that are there to support your students is very beneficial. So I want to say thank you. I know we're coming right up at time. So I want to say thank you so much, Brandy, Clarissa, and Andrew and Nicole for joining us today and providing your expertise and these wonderful resources. I am sure that there are many individuals that are excited to dive deeper into these resources to leverage at their institutions. In looking forward, next week, I know Nicole put a little plug in for us, so thank you. On Wednesday, October 19th, we'll be continuing this conversation through our next Peer Learning Network discussion, where we're going to be joined by Butler County Community College and Pennsylvania Highlands Community College to learn more about their SNAP E&T programs on their campuses. So be sure to register via the link that's here in the chat. Additionally, our next webinar will be held on Tuesday, November 1st. Our topic is for that webinar is going to be campus-based childcare, and we'll be joined by the Department of Education to learn more about the Childcare Access Means Parents in School program, C-Campus. So be sure to register for that as well. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. I want to thank again our panelists here. It's been wonderful having you here today. So thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, y'all take care.